Welcome to Down the Garden Path. I'm your host, Joanne Shaw, landscape designer and plant lover. I enjoy discussing down-to-earth tips and advice to help you seasonally manage your garden and landscape, and I also aim to bring you interesting and relevant topics to educate you all about the landscaping and horticultural industry. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of Down the Garden Path. Thank you for joining me here for more information on the landscaping industry. And today I'm very excited to have Carla Bailey with Women in Landscaping joining me. Carla, welcome to the show.
Awesome, Joanne. It is great to be back. Thank you for asking me.
Why don't you tell me a little bit about you and your not-for-profit Women in Landscaping?
For sure. So, Women in Landscaping, we have been around since about 2018. We started as a small grassroots support group for women in our really interesting trade, just to make sure that, we had a community group. We started doing, at the time, about quarterly sessions with whether it was education for designers, whether it was education for business owners, including getting, HR specialists and legal specialists come in. Um, Obviously, 2018 and then 2019 were really good years. We all know what happened after 2019. So, obviously, took a couple years off there for the quarterly or monthly meetings, but we were still able to hold our really big summer events, which I'm going to talk about in just a moment. Post the COVID world, we decided to kind of look at ourselves as well and say, how do we help more people in different areas? And instead of having those big quarterly events, we decided, hey, you know what? A drop in cup of coffee or a drop in beer would be a lot easier for a lot of people.
Yeah.
So we switched our gears and we decided, a monthly session on the fourth Thursday of the night at 7 p.m. local time. I'm going to repeat that a lot through this call. At a local, brewery or coffee house just to get people out. And obviously with life happening the way it always does, maybe you can come this month and not that month, but the group and the community is always there. So we started with 4 founders. We have landscape designers, landscape architects, contractors, project managements, and HR specialists as our founders. So we were able to really pull from different sectors and different groups within our community. We started in London. We've had several thousand people come out to our events over the years, our Touch a Truck being our largest, with about 4,500 people annually coming to our events. And then from there, we grew into our Ancaster Hamilton location at the end of 2024. We then grew into our downtown Toronto location and our Ottawa locations, both of those within 2025. So we're now monthly meeting in 4 different communities in Ontario. We are trying to launch a couple more communities in Ontario, but we are a registered nonprofit for Canada, which means, you folks out in Alberta that are listening in BC, we're also looking at coming into your communities as well.
Oh, wonderful. That would be cool. I mean, I just love that, women in landscaping, it's a career. Like, I think, the higher level of all of this is to let people know that this is a career.
100%, and it's something, obviously coming from my HR background, there's always that competing with the guidance counselors that, and bless their hearts, and I mean this genuinely, they teach what they know. They know you graduate high school, you go to college, you go to university, you do your 4 years, and you so on and so forth. I remember, I think it was in grade 6 or grade 7, I went to an afternoon. At the time, I didn't know that it was a WIST event, a Women in Skilled Trade event. And it was on a Saturday at a local high school, and I got to talk to a carpenter and an electrician, and I got to speak to a plumber and a lawyer, and learn about these 4 different women that were talking about their different trades. And I'm like, oh, this is really interesting. But my parents told me I have to go to college. So that's great.
Yeah.
But going back to not knowing that this is a career, if you don't have access to these events, Women in Landscaping was very lucky. 2 years ago, we were invited to speak at a WIST event, and we had a hands-on experience for these grade 7 and 8 girls to learn that, hey, you don't have to. You don't have to go into a business program. You don't have to go into whether it's mental health or physical health, whatever that looks like. If you genuinely enjoy being outside, you genuinely enjoy solving different problems, whether that's a drainage problem and you want to use the big equipment, whether that's, someone comes in and says, here's a new build backyard, there's no shade. Well, how do I solve that problem so people have all of this new space that they can use in their world? You can be artistic, you can be mechanically minded, and you can be in a landscaping role. You can go through the apprenticeship. I love learning things, Joanne. I love learning things. I am not good in a schoolroom, but I love learning things. Had I known about apprenticeships where I can work, I can still pay my mortgage, I can still, make sure my kids are to and from school as needed, and then I can be in a classroom setting for a limited period of time and get a red seal trade, that's phenomenal.
Yeah.
But our high schools don't talk to us about it. They didn't. They're working on it, and that's great.
Yes, that's good. So I think that's one of the views I have about women, will, like we need to call that the tag,
Yeah.
in that you can promote that, that's one aspect. But I think the other aspect from someone who's been in the industry for 20 years, having the support of other women in the group, and having the support, because how we work in as women in landscaping is, usually in different jobs than, there are women landscapers and there are women driving the machines and the trucks, and we know that, but there are women like me who are just I say just designers, I don't mean that, but so I feel like it's really important to have that group. And I feel like we're kindred spirits because I have always sought that out. And I have like
Yeah.
a little group, and it certainly really grew from COVID as well, right? We met weekly. I don't know if I talked about that before, about how we met
Yeah.
weekly at to get us through COVID. We met once a week to talk about, for that support.
Yeah.
So I'm all in about that. I know there's not a Durham chapter yet, but and I appreciate though that you are also growing slowly, because I think that is a wise, right?
Yeah. It's something we want to make sure that the community is there, right? So you don't want to, you don't want to flood something, you don't want to flood a market, and then all of a sudden there's nothing, there's no foundationals there. I'm sure there's a growing gardening pun that I could be making right now, but I was on the HR side of things. They don't let me plant. They don't let me use the equipment. So there's the growing of the root before the tree, right?
Right.
So
Yes. Yeah. No, and I think that is important, because I think, like, when you said that, that it's important to have a good base. And I'm like, I know of women out here, but I don't know that many women out here, right? So it's like,
yeah,
yeah, you're right, and we need to get more, and kind of thing. So yeah, so I think that's good, and I look forward to when we are ready here in Durham region. Toronto's not that far away, so I can pop in. So I haven't
yeah.
yet, but it's been on my radar. How have they gone? Like, do you find that people, is it more just kind of, networking? Is it, are there questions, like, are people helping out? I'm not sure,
Yeah.
pricing this right, just job right. Like, you know what I mean? Is there some of that as well?
It's absolutely wild. So, depending on where you are sitting at the table, you could be having a conversation about, joinery. Am I getting this wall to meet this patio at the right place? Did I dig it deep enough? Like, why am I not settling correctly? Two seats down, let's talk about plants. Let's talk about getting this one garden. We all love our lilies. What are they?
No, we
No, we
don't.
don't. No, we
We
don't.
do not.
But then you have that argument, very loving argument at the table of like, torch them, burn them, throw gasoline on them, to the
Yeah.
person that's saying, or, build the containers so that they can't escape. And then you could do it this way. And well, okay. And then two seats down, okay, I went to this car dealership or this truck dealership, and who are you talking to for insurance? And then two seats down, oh, I ran into this problem with my boss the other day and I didn't know how to deal with it. And two seats down, you're talking about the local sports team.
Yeah.
And
So
it's
that's good.
just,
And I can do all of
yeah.
that. Yeah, that's great because I'm two boys, so I'm a sports mom. So yeah, so I can do all of that. And that's wonderful. But I know like I can honestly tell you in the last 2 days. So yesterday I had a conversation with a young designer who just had a baby, and I saw her post about working in the car with her computer while the baby slept in the car, right? So he's 6 months
Yeah.
old. So I was on a long drive. I do that when I'm on a long drive, right? And I also had a design question because I've seen her designs and I know she knows her stuff. And so I reached out to her and I called her and she gave me her suggestion about my little design and grading dilemma. And then I said, how is your business going? It's been a bit of a challenge with a 6 month old and stuff. And then she also shared something we all struggle with as designers. We um potential customers sign a proposal, they pay us a deposit, we do the design, and then you need to share with them the final design, but then it's collecting that final payment.
Yeah. Yeah.
And and so she said, I have the situation, and she goes, I don't know if it's not worded strongly enough in my proposal. And I'm like, yeah, they're not reading the proposal, like that doesn't matter. you know
Yeah.
so and yeah, so and I said, and it's happened to me, and I hate the predicament where you good clients who want a copy of the final design, and you're dangling it over their head because you're waiting for them to pay, and they make you, or I inter it as being not trusting them. But it's like, but I can't trust you because like 2 times or 3 times a year I cave and I accidentally do it and then I don't get paid.
Yeah.
So I think that's like, to talk to other designers and know how do you deal with this situation. And I helped her, I gave her my advice. And then this morning I have someone else who started in Durham a new business of just weeding, not just weeding, but maintaining. and
Yeah.
and she said, she goes, I still don't know if I'm charging enough, if I'm booked fully out. I can't take on more work, so then it's like, well, then maybe you're not charging
Charge
enough.
more.
So but like we don't know who to ask, and we need more than charge more. Like she had referred out to a mutual friend who is a contractor, and he said, you just need to charge more. Well, we need more than that. Like I need more input. Like I need more details and more how to say it, how to word it, how to, you know, uh,
Yeah.
just saying charge more. Well, okay, $5 more, 10% more, you know, $30 more. Like give me something, right? So
Yeah.
I feel that is such, and I think as women, I don't know, maybe do we need that more than men do? Like, do men, like, I don't know if they talk about that kind of stuff, but I frankly don't care. I feel like that in our industry, um, we do need it. So,
I agree, and I think there's one thing that women do really well, which is the coaching of the next. And I'm not suggesting men cannot do it. What I'm suggesting is that women do understand that, you know, to quote, another concern would always be the mental load that women carry, and sometimes we carry far too much, and it's not fair for the other people in our lives. But yes, I want to charge more. Okay, that's wonderful. My goal is to charge more. However, I've got X, Y, and Z that's going on, and I've also got A, B, and C that's going on. And how do I make those connection points? Whereas somebody else that's carrying a very similar mental load will understand that charge more A, B, C. This is why we're charging more. It's the explanation. Simon Sinek wrote that book, Start with Why,
yes.
right? Fantastic book. And it's not just for business acumen, it's not just for your personal life, but start with why are we doing this? I want to make more money. I want to, not have 60-hour work weeks. I want to have a 35-hour work week with the same income, whatever that looks like. So I got my why. I want to have more free time. My how am I going to do that? I'm going to charge more money. Well, what does that look like? What questions am I asking? When you can be in a room of people that are cheering you on while giving you that support, it feels a lot different than calling somebody and they just answer, "Oh, just charge more then." Because am I charging myself out so that you get the job? Whereas on a Thursday night, surrounded at the will table, and even we have various group chats for our region.
Okay.
So I know the other day there was a conversation going on. We have a company down in London turning 20. They're doing a garden tour of their top 5 properties they feel they've done in the last 20 years, and one of their employees put it in the group chat. Hey, this is the ticket link. Hopefully, we'll see each other there. And now there's like 2 school buses being rented, and we're driving around and we're seeing all this because we want to support our colleague. Our colleague might work for another company, but she is our colleague.
Yes.
She is in this industry together.
Yeah.
And it's really important to focus on being a colleague within the industry.
Yeah.
That is how we maintain this community. That is how we're able to call somebody and say, hey, just saw this. Are you doing okay? What can I help you with? What can I take
Mm-hmm.
off your plate? What question do you have that you don't even know that you have that question yet?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and sometimes I have this plant, like this spot in this garden, and I'm working on the design, and I'm stumped. Like I can't figure out what to put there. I need a fresh idea, right? Um, yeah, so it can be small stuff, but it can be big stuff. And I know there is another landscape designer, and her and I are very good friends, Nancy Green, and people that know me know Nancy. We live close to each other, and everybody's flabbergasted. Contractors are like, but you're both designers, like you're both competitors. Like we're like, no, like there's enough work for both of us. Like I did a plant catalog for her with Dynascape. She did something else for me. Like she'll pick me up,
Yeah,
I'm at Cobes, do you need anything? Like, and we don't see each other and we get it all the time from the contractors, right? The guys are like, well, how are you helping? Like, how are you working? And it's like, because it works, there's more work, there are more homes, and same with landscape contractors. And I think Durham is actually pretty good. I can't speak for other um, areas, but I feel like the landscape contractors in Durham, there's a good group that really do collaborate and do loan each other
yeah,
machine. Last year was a big year of that, like loaning a machine, loaning
yeah,
picking up a truck, yeah, it
yeah.
was so I know that goes to credit to one of my main contractors at being very much like that, and like we're doing a barbecue, like we've designed, and oddly I've designed the barbecues before, outdoor barbecues, but I've never actually been involved in, well, I have, but long time ago, not recently, since it's changed, like since they've been different products like Ucara, and I haven't been involved in the building of one, and my contractor hasn't either. And I asked, and he goes, I'll check with the group and I'll find out that somebody's got to know. Somebody will have done it. So I mean, I feel like that is
Yeah.
maybe unique to our industry. Maybe it's unique to Durham, but I feel like the rising, what's the thing about like we all go up, we
That's
elevate
it.
each other, right? If we're all connected and we're all supporting each other, as opposed to trying to work, independent and secretly find out how much she charges, so I charge $20 less so that I get the design. That's not the way to do a business, right? And it's not the way to grow an industry either.
And that's where I find for our industry, and very specific to Ontario, the members of Landscape Ontario, Horticultural Trades Association for the full name, in case we forgot all 5 words, there's such an open book mentality in the rooms that we're able to sit in. When you're sitting on the various professional advisory committees, when you're sitting on volunteer boards, there really seems to be a very open book. um, Come talk to each other about these issues and where can we help each other, because there is a mindset of the tide brings all boats up, so be on the tide, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Whereas going into other associations, whether it's other provincial or even state associations going into the United States, um, there's a hesitancy there to share.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there's the industry or the company's, secret, the little black book that we know how to do this better, and that's why we're going to do it. And respectfully, that is a way to drive the industry away. Um, because you aren't being innovative when you're on an island with nobody else.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way to be innovative.
Or
And
inspired, motivative. It's like there's so
yeah,
much, right? Because when you're having a bad day, you're like questioning, you're like, why did I do this? And why am I, you need to talk to somebody who's been there, right? And I'm sure
exactly.
that's the case for all industries. I mean, we are obviously talking about women in landscaping. Have you looked into the US at all as far as similar, like, is there any professional groups like women in landscaping?
Yeah, so the NALP, the National Association for Landscaping Professionals, is the American federal group. They do have a women's association. They usually have one or two larger events a year. I know in North Carolina there are a few associations, which is actually really interesting, and very similar to ours insofar as it's more of a drop-in
Hmm.
type session, which for our for Will in Canada, what I find is that helps people that are newer to the industry, that are young in their career, not necessarily young in their years, but also have younger families.
Mm-hmm.
So having that drop-in mentality, come when the kids are in bed, or you can't make it this month because it's a lacrosse game, or there's an allowance for life that happens when it's more of a drop-in mentality. And then we obviously do have our big events. We do have our Touch a Truck. London specific will always be the third Saturday of July. So not sure when this podcast will air, but we're looking forward to that.
Before then, it's okay.
Perfect. I was going to say either we're looking forward to it or we had an amazing day. You can edit as you need. We also have, our holiday, mid to late November into December, where we do have like our last one, so to speak, of the year. What we were really excited about in 2025 was we had our first Will event at Congress in January 2025. We had an amazing speaker from Bartlett Tree come. She was fantastic, very engaging. I'm trying not to rub it in, Joanne. I know, unfortunately, schedules didn't work for that day, but
I
there
know.
was about a
I miss
hundred.
it. I
It was
couldn't
about a
even look.
hundred
I
women
was
in
so
that room.
disappointed. I couldn't even look at the pictures,
Yeah.
Carla. I was so bummed out that I couldn't make it.
Oh,
So, but I will be there next year and I'm excited about it. I really am. And so, yeah, so tell us. So, for people that don't know, I have spoken on here about Landscape Ontario as far as, support and a professional organization for anybody in the landscape industry. Um, so every January, and I talk about that too, usually it kicks off with the Landscape Designer Conference on the Monday,
yeah.
and then a 3-day trade show. And so this past one was the first Will women's group meeting, luncheon. And then, but next year, for 2026, you have big plans.
We have really big plans. So there will be another women's luncheon. And please know when you're hearing this podcast, you know, you are allowed to attend whether you're a woman, a
Uh,
man, an ally, whether you're non-binary, whatever that looks like in your world. We call it the women's luncheon so that people understand the focus of the luncheon,
okay,
not necessarily who has to be in the room. So if
right.
you are a business owner that has a series, or they want to actually start hiring women, maybe you haven't hired women before,
Mm,
this is a pretty good room to be in, to
okay.
find out some of those nuances that, because there are nuances that you need to be aware of before you start your process. So there will be a women's luncheon that's going to be hosted by Landscape Ontario during the day. And then will be hosting an evening reception. I believe it's going to be the night of tailgate. So we're going to have our reception, and then when tailgate starts, we'll be walking down the hall to go join the big party. So we're really excited for both of those events. We're looking forward to another great speaker for the Landscape Ontario luncheon, and then the cocktail reception in the evening should be always a good time to be in a good room. So
Cocktails, huh?
I know
I know, that's
it's a
great.
dangerous word during
That's
Congress.
that's right. That's right. So I love that it is an inclusive event. It's not an exclusive event, right? You're
Yes.
including, and I think that's a great place for someone who is trying to grow their business, that is having a hard time hiring people. Hiring qualified people is challenging in this industry. And I think women are overlooked to be team leaders and to be crew leaders and things like that. So I think that is wise for anybody who is in a business position to to look at that and look at hiring women, or getting to know what the nuances on how to attract women. It's not just about hiring them. Maybe I don't want to work with you, right?
That's it.
Yeah.
It's keeping, right? There's
Mm,
always those two problems when we talk about our number one drain, right? We always talk about equipment. For big companies, equipment has a lot of suck on their revenue, and then your next suck on your revenue is your labor.
yeah.
And I had an opportunity earlier this year. I was speaking with a great group of people down at the CNLA conference summit that happened in North Carolina. Had some wonderful conversations around, oh, my classroom as an instructor, it's about 50-50 split male to female. I'm like, that's awesome. Like, that's genuinely great. That's probably the best stat that I've heard in a long time. My follow up question is, but why within 5 years is it 95-5? So they've graduated your program in a 50-50 split classroom. They joined the industry within 5 years. It's 95% male, 5% female.
Hmm.
NALP will actually put a stat up that they are finally at 7% women, self identifying women in the country of the United States. 7% identify as women within the landscaping industry. So what
Wow.
happens? Yeah.
And are designers, like, would they count designers?
Yep. In growers and garden centers. Yeah. So what happens in those 5 years, right? So you graduate college, we'll call it 2021 when you graduate college. So between the ages of 22 to 27, what generally happens? Maybe there's a wedding, maybe there's a marriage, maybe there's a
There's a
child,
baby. Yeah.
right? And these people are not coming back to our industry.
Hmm. Yeah.
So we get them and it's wonderful, and then we lose them because we don't retain them. And why are we not retaining them? Well, we don't know if they can be a good team. We don't know if they can use the equipment. Okay, so how do we fix that?
Hmm.
What coaching can we find them? What education can we find them?
Hmm.
Apprenticeship, guys, is free education. In Ontario, you get grants. The company and the employee gets given money to go to apprenticeship.
Hmm.
There's the Canada Ontario Job Grant, COGI, which will pay, if you're a smaller company, up to 83% of your training cost for approved programs.
Really? Ooh.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah. I mean, I can only speak for as a designer, because that's how I started as a young mom. Like, I was that person, right? And even the education portion, I had two little ones, and nobody taught, like, I wanted to learn. I was working at a garden center, wanted to learn more about plants. And I'm sorry for our listeners who've heard this story before, but you're going to hear it again. But and so the commute, there was a downtown Toronto university, now called so it was Ryerson. What's it called? I don't know. TMU. I don't know, Toronto Metro. Yeah, so now it's TMU, and they offered it at night. So I needed a babysitter for an hour, from 5:30 to 6:30 before my husband got home, and I could leave and go
Yeah,
downtown and do a 3-hour course one night a week. And took me 4 years to do it. But I did it around my kids growing. And then it was the perfect job because I could take them to school, do like meet
that's
with
it.
clients, pick them up at school. I could, make calls while I was sitting at baseball practice, watching, in the car, make calls and book like I could schedule my business around my kids. So I feel like, and that's where young moms need to know that. Now I know that's specific to design, but I feel that the flexible, I think there is flexibility, before and after
Yeah.
school, that situation with employers, or one. I mean, usually, yeah, I can't speak for all employers, but I feel like our industry has the ability to be flexible,
There are
to
some
accommodate.
amazing,
Yeah.
yeah, there are some amazing employers that are doing very, very creative things, because people are what drives your company. Your clients, after you sell them a job, they're not seeing you; they're seeing your people.
Mm,
So your people need to be able to be empowered to create not only this outdoor space, but also create this relationship. So if they sell this house in 5 years, well, we want that company again because they had polite staff, that they were respectful, they weren't throwing their cigarette butts in my garden, whatever that looks like. These amazing companies, and I always, always, always go to this one grower because what I think they have done, every single grower needs to look at. They have 6 full-time jobs on this one crew. So 6 times 40 hours. If whoever's listening, you can pull out your own calculator. We're not going to do the math. So there are 6 full-time jobs. There are 9 mothers that have these 6 full-time jobs. They self-regulate insofar as one person's on pickups and drop-offs this week, one person's on lunches, one person's on doctor's appointments, one person's doing this, and the 9 of them make sure that these 6 full-time jobs by 40 hours a week are filled and the work is done, but I might only be available for 3 of those hours this week because my family has something going on. But I'm going to make sure that your hours are covered next week because your family. And these 9 women self regulate, self manage, and now very specific to growers. And I understand that. And that's why I go, if I'm a grower, I want to know what that company is because they are one of the top 5, if not higher, in our province. And they are how even the young people that I've talked to that work for their company that aren't a part of that team, how they are treated respectfully, how are they talked to. This is an organization to look at.
wow.
Yeah, another company I love looking at are very transparent about how they pay. They are
Mm.
probably more transparent than they are legally required to be because for anybody that's listening that has more than 25 employees, you have some legal requirements with your openness regarding wages starting on June or July 1st, I guess.
Ooh, really?
Yeah, so you have to start on your job postings. You have to be able to offer a range, and it has to be posted. Um, you also have to hold on to your resumes for so many years. Um, it's gonna get a little bit wild, and the spread, you can only be within, I think it said $50,000. However, if it's an over $200,000 paying job, you don't have to post the exact number, but it has to be posted for internal and external jobs.
And that's outside of the industry, or that's the industry? Sorry, that is that like
That's
we're not
yeah,
an
any
Ontario thing,
employer
or
over, yeah, Ontario for Canada, and any employer, any industry with 25 more or more employees. What you're googling is the phrase "Working for Workers Act 6." And then Working for Workers Act 7 will be over the next, I think, 6 or 7 months. So keep an eye out on
oh,
those ones.
I will. I will. That's where you love it. So you love the HR part of it, right?
I love it. So this one company, they give you like a 4-page document and they're like, okay, you just got hired, minimum wage, dirty math, we're going to call it $18 because it will go up October 1st. If you have your G2, it's worth this much money to the company. If you have your full G, it's worth an additional this much. If you have your restricted A, it's worth this much. If you have taken these safety programs, whether that's valid first aid CPR, whether that's dealing with heat stress, whether that's dealing with overdoses and, how to properly administer naloxone, whatever that looks like, this is what it's worth to the company. So you can start at $18 an hour, but if you get all of these other certifications, your chainsaw certification, your skid steer, whether you get a leadership program, whatever that looks like, all of a sudden you're at 25, all of a sudden you're at 35. And it shows you on day one, if you want to become a team leader, this is your path and this is your financial path to get there. That level of transparency, and where I'm going with this company that allows their people to self-manage, this company that tells people their path to go on, is kind of what we are trying to get for women within our industry to really come around and say there are amazing employers out there. There are safe employers out there. When we're having our monthly drop-in sessions and we're, crowdsourcing solutions, whether it's a small problem or a big problem, we're also sitting there going, this is a safe group of people to work with. Oh, you're working on a job site with that group of people? Maybe you should go talk to Joan over there and she might let you know how their last job went. And we're allowing our community to keep ourselves safe while networking. We're pointing out the folks that are contributing to our industry, that are contributing to raising that tide, right?
Yeah.
So
Excellent.
there are amazing, innovative companies out there, and those are the folks that hopefully will be coming to, the women's luncheon, just so that they can learn those nuances and, even step up their game even further.
So the evening one, where will there be a speak? I know there's a speaker for the lunch. Is there something for the evening? No speaker.
It's going to be like our drop-in monthly sessions where
Okay, networking.
kind
Okay.
of come in, have a drink, meet people. And then we're going to go, it will be at the Delta. So the game plan is we're going to have our cocktail reception. When we close our door, we're going to turn around and walk right into the tailgate. If your listeners don't know what tailgate is at Landscape Ontario's Congress, it's the fun night. It's the loud night. There's usually a big party that's going on. There's games. I think last year there was ping pong tables, and it's just a night to take off all of the bells and whistles, be humans with each other, and just hang out and have fun.
Yeah. And it's good. It's a nice way to put like faces to names, or like social media. When we follow people on social media, it's nice to put, faces to handles and things like that. So that's great. So I'm excited. So 2025, we have done 4 new groups. Are you hoping to or do you think that's good for 2025? And now you're planning for 2026?
We're trying to really support our Toronto and Ottawa groups right now, just make sure that they have their feet under them. So probably come the fall, we'll have a heads together conversation, and see, in September, if there is the right hometown hero, the right champions there. My strong recommendation is, make sure there's two that are fighting for it, because somebody always has life happening. So if there's 2 people, it's just easier to share the load.
Is there a lot of responsibility for that person? Like, before I volunteered to be that person for Durham,
Yeah. So the one thing that what we do, I'm going to start with what we do as the association. So we try to make sure that all of the social media, the marketing is going. We reach out to our black books, our phone books. We do have a pretty large mailing list as well, just letting people know what's going on. However, for the area, we're reaching out to our LinkedIn partnerships as well. What we ask the champions to do, you're the ones that are seeing everybody at the nurseries, right? You're the ones that are seeing each other at the lumber yards, the stone yards. Let's be honest, Tim Hortons while you're driving through trying to get to your first site of the day. So reaching out to your own community is just as important. We will do a lot of things for you, but I don't know who. I've never met Nancy, unfortunately.
Right.
So,
you did at Landscape Ontario. Remember we went to the
yes.
That we heard the Omafra speech, right? Well, she was the one who thought we were supposed to hear somebody else because she had the program from 2024. That's Nancy.
Oh, that's brilliant.
That was kind of a funny situation. We went to hear a speaker speak, and it was very informative to hear Omafra speak about box tree moth. I found it very informative, but she was really expecting somebody else, and she was like chasing you, right, with the program, going, no, it says that was.
And I'm like, this looks very different. Oh, that's awesome.
That was so funny. So yeah, she's very hilarious. So that was good. Yeah, I mean, I think we get a lot out of Landscape Ontario, but I feel like And I feel like I feel like a bit I channel you, like not from an HR point, but just I am very open, and other people have said that, like about what I charge, how I run, because I see these kids, and it's funny because this designer group, informal, that I'm part of, anytime somebody reaches out to them who's kind of just graduated or who's kind of new, regardless of where they are in the province, they send them all to me.
Oh, I love that.
Because I'm willing to share. I'm willing to share how it started, and it's been over 20 years. So I feel like, it's I still am making mistakes and still having a hard time, but and still having questions, right? But I feel like these young graduates who are coming out of these, speaking specifically design, but also landscape programs. And then they're just like, okay, you graduated. And it's like, well, but nobody teaches them that I mean, everybody that has been sent to me, no one has ever, even in school, in these horticulture, like world-class horticulture programs, told them that they need insurance. That
It's
you can't be part of
interesting.
Landscape Ontario to be and without insurance. You can't, like,
Exactly.
and why they need insurance and how much insurance costs. And and then so they don't know, and they don't know what to charge. They don't know how to meet clients. They don't know how, and a lot of them, love them. They're young, they're keen, they can make a very pretty picture, but they live with their parents. They've never gardened, really. They don't know, like, the plant, like, you know
Yeah.
so so it's like, how do we get them there? Like, I feel like, how
Yeah.
do we get them there, right? So yeah, I mean, insurance is a big one. I mean, there's so many other little aspects of it, but I'm always amazed. And then with the insurers, this is also a battle that we all have, and we've kind of all, like, I think we all seem to go to the same insurer now, and we've kind of shown them, like, explained it to them, because when we go for this insurance, they treat us like we're landscape contractors, but we're not.
Yeah.
We don't have the machines. We don't have, like we say, we're just designers. So we don't need that same product, but we need errors and emissions.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, I happen to be married to someone in that industry and stuff. So my first few years of, it was his company who actually insured me, at, like, they did him a favor because I couldn't get it through to these other insurers.
Yeah.
Right.
It's interesting because I look at, I live in London, so Fanshawe College has an
Yes.
amazing
Amazing
school of
program.
design with a horticultural program. And I look there and I go, why isn't the co-op mandatory?
Mm.
Is my first question.
Yes.
Um,
So important.
because in my opinion, go work in a garden center or a grower for one of those mandatory co-ops, and your second one needs to be an install company, whether like as a landscape designer.
I wish I had done that. Yeah.
Yeah. And just get two co-ops under your feet. But also there needs to be a little bit of a business program. Not everybody wants to own their own business, and
Hmm.
that's wonderful. And I understand, okay, you can do a continuing education program later. However, if I'm 21 and I already know I want to start my business, could there be a one of my electives be, that business 101 is my elective. Um,
I
and,
can't
and I
believe
don't
that
know.
there's not. Like, regardless for the industry, I just can't believe that that isn't being taught, that is a gap. So I feel like, because of that gap, regardless of how long you've been in the business, groups like this are very valuable, because no one else, like, it's not, well, I can say for landscaping, and maybe this other people are more, quiet about how much they charge, and things like that, of how much you sell. Like I always say, my design fees are on my website because I'm not good at sales. So I want it to be transparent. Like, I don't want you,
Yeah,
if you don't want to pay that, then you're not going to call me. Right. So where other people hide it and they don't want to tell anybody what their design fees are and how much they charge for design. So I know it's everybody's personality is different. But I just feel that the way women do business is different. And I think having an organization like Women in Landscape, um, can just bring a more of a positive spin, and I hope encourage more women to not only join the industry but stay in the industry.
That is the continuous goal. So we
Yeah.
still will tell everybody, we are still a grassroots association. We are still very much embedded into our community. We want people to be in our industry. So how do we help them? What questions can we answer? What information can we just provide? Going, just as you said, Joanne, what helping them not put themselves out of the industry, right? So if someone comes in and says, "Hey, I want to charge $500 an hour for a design," it's like, oh well, what's been your market study, and helping them learn not just the business acumen, not just the language that you need, but also, how to hold yourself, how to present yourself, because your market is very different to Nancy's market,
Yeah. Well, our
and
market's
that's
the
why
same, but a different, yeah. We're the same, but
yeah,
yeah, but where Toronto, downtown Toronto is versus
yeah,
right versus in the Durham region versus London, like it
yeah.
depends, right? You need to know. We're like Toronto's tricky, I find. I don't know how like it takes forever to get around. The yards might be smaller, so like but yet getting from point A to point B. So it's like how do you price that, right? How do you price that in? So yeah, so it's kind of interesting. But and I think the only way you can do that is by communicating, and
That's it.
yeah, and having a drop in I think is a great one. So tell me again, so it's Monday nights, fourth Monday?
It's the fourth Thursday of the month.
Thursday. I don't know where I got
Yep.
Monday from. Sorry,
It's
Thursday.
all good. So 7 p.m. local time, and I'm phrasing it that way to put out to the universe growth into more provinces.
Absolutely.
So 7 p.m. We do try to hit, the local cafe, the local bar. Um, I'm a very proud independent business owner, as are you, Joanne. So
Hmm.
I do try to
Support
suggest,
local.
go local, don't go chain where possible.
Hmm.
Um, but in London, we usually have somewhere between, 10 and 15 every month. Ancaster's still growing, so we're about 10 to 15 there. Um, Ottawa and Toronto, we're doing a big push over the next few months, because I know
Okay.
there's been a couple small ones, a couple, less than 5 people, but they're still having great conversations at the
Yeah,
table,
that's
so it's
good. I
still
think
worth
the
it.
first couple in Toronto had bad weather too. Like I think, right? I
It
think it
really
was
did.
I don't know that that's a fair statement because I know of yeah, your first few we did have a lot of snow this year and I think it was the
Yeah.
last Thursday of the month. So yes, I can remember thinking I can't drive to
Yeah.
that in that. So yeah, so now that it's summer and you continue yeah, like it's 12 months of the year, right? It's continuing even in the
12 months,
summer.
yeah. The
Okay.
only one we don't do is December, because that third or that fourth Saturday, wow, fourth
Fourth
Thursday,
Thursday.
there we go, will be a Christmas holiday
Yeah.
situation.
Yeah.
So,
That's
but that's
good.
why we do two in January, because we'll do one at
Excellent.
Congress and one at home. So,
Perfect. Perfect. Well, that is wonderful. So, where can our listeners find out more information?
for sure. So, very heavily on socials, whether it is Facebook, LinkedIn, or Instagram, you are looking for women in landscaping. Um, or you can search for me, Carla Bailey, on all of those platforms as well, and you will find links to everything. I cross post far too often, so
Okay.
just keep an eye
Is
out.
there a is there a specific website as well?
Unfortunately, not yet. And
Okay.
Joanne, you can cut this if you don't like it. If there's any companies out there that would like to sponsor our association so that we can get one of those fancy dancy websites, please feel free to reach out, because we would love to
That's a
have
good.
that one spot to be. So
Okay, that's a great. No, I'll leave that right in. So if there's somebody who can help, because I know that is an investment to do it properly. You could easily have whipped up a little cheapo one that doesn't function. You need to do, and that's another business thing, right? Yeah.
yeah.
You're be started. Websites,
Oh, I get it. Because I did
right?
that as a business
Too.
owner. I bought the URL just so I could have it, and I'm now investing in a proper designer going over everything. So
Yeah. Yeah.
it's yeah. So we said, okay, you know what, for Will, we'd rather
Yep.
start high rather than start low. So
Yes. That is perfect. Well, thank you so much. Is there anything? Oh, well, the Touch a Truck. When is Touch a Truck? Is in July in London?
It is. So there are, I believe, 5 or 6 that are going to happen on the third Saturday of July
Okay.
across the province. And London is Women in Landscaping along with Landscape Ontario. The rest will be Landscape Ontario hosted. So Landscape Ontario has it all on their website. We're very thankful for them for hosting, which is amazing. Um, Otherwise, the fourth Thursday of the month, we will be meeting up. It's beautiful, thank God. So hopefully, we'll be out on a patio having a celebratory mojito this month.
Excellent.
So,
That's wonderful. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining me here on Down the Garden Path, and I look forward to having you back because I want to keep this, as much as I can help promote it, with the podcast and with the blog post on my, because then they'll, be on my website and stuff as well. Because it is new and it is dear to my heart, and I don't know how it happened. Like I said, how people reach out to me and stuff, but it happened, and I'm happy to share and I'm happy to help. So I really want to encourage women to join this industry and to stay in the industry. So yeah, I'm excited to be part of what you've started and really help where I can.
Joanne, we appreciate it. We truly do. Thank you again for having us.
You're welcome. So there you have it, everybody. If you have someone in your life who is not sure if they likes working outside or is interested in being a landscape designer or driving a big truck, because that's a lot of fun too, and interested in learning more about landscaping, please check out Women in Landscaping. Thank you, everybody, also for tuning in to Down the Garden Path. And I look forward to speaking to you again soon.